living in Justin Trudeau's Canada, it's a never-ending hallucinogenic, surreal dream. Justin Trudeau's mode of governance is to top each scandal with a bigger scandal.
That's exactly typical of him and his 14-year-old mentality. Everything that's gone wrong on the immigration front in Canada is 100% attributable to Justin Trudeau and his pack of demented minions.
Because they seized the bank accounts of 200 Canadians, and that was not amusing. And Trudeau has no idea what that did to Canada's international reputation. That was not a good precedent.
What happens when one of Canada's most outspoken voices takes aim at its most polarizing leader? Jordan Peterson has unleashed a blistering critique of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, sparking heated debates across the country. And trust us, you'll want to hear what he has to say. Peterson doesn't hold back, delivering scathing remarks about Trudeau's leadership, his policies, and his handling of Canada's most pressing issues. Whether it's the skyrocketing cost of living, immigration chaos, or concerns about free speech, Peterson paints a picture of a government out of touch with its people. But that's not all. Peterson's critique goes beyond politics, touching on deeper issues of leadership, accountability, and the future of Canada. His fiery rhetoric has already ignited discussions nationwide, leaving many to wonder, is he exposing the truth, or is this just another polarizing debate? In today's video, we'll unpack Peterson's powerful takedown, analyze what it means for Trudeau's leadership, and explore the broader implications for Canadians. Peterson's critique of Trudeau's leadership. Jordan Peterson's critique of Justin Trudeau begins with a blistering assessment of his leadership style. He looks like a 14-year-old boy pretending to be a leader, Peterson remarked, encapsulating his broader frustration with what he sees as Trudeau's superficial approach to governance. Peterson argues that Trudeau epitomizes performative progressivism, a leadership style where image and optics take precedence over meaningful action. He points to Trudeau's carefully curated public persona, including frequent photo ops and viral social media moments, as evidence of a leader more concerned with looking the part than delivering results. But this isn't just about appearances. Peterson believes Trudeau's focus on symbolism often comes at the expense of substantive policymaking, whether it's announcing ambitious climate goals without clear implementation plans or staging public apologies without systemic follow-through. Peterson accuses Trudeau of favoring performative gestures over real solutions. Peterson also highlights a deeper issue: the growing perception that Trudeau's leadership is disconnected from the everyday struggles of Canadians. By prioritizing his global reputation as a progressive icon, Peterson argues, Trudeau has neglected pressing domestic issues like the rising cost of living and economic instability. This, Peterson says, is symptomatic of a larger problem in modern politics: a decline in authentic, principled leadership. For Peterson, Trudeau represents a new breed of leaders who prioritize public relations over genuine governance, leaving citizens to deal with the consequences. Economic policies under fire? One of Jordan Peterson's sharpest critiques of Justin Trudeau focuses on his economic policies, which Peterson describes as a combination of reckless spending and poor planning. According to Peterson, these policies are not just flawed, they're actively harming working-class Canadians and the most vulnerable members of society. Peterson points to Canada's rising inflation and skyrocketing cost of living as prime examples of Trudeau's mismanagement. Every day, Canadians are feeling the pinch, with higher prices on groceries, housing, and utilities squeezing household budgets. Peterson argues that much of this economic turmoil can be traced back to Trudeau's government, which he accuses of engaging in unsustainable spending and increasing the national debt without clear strategies for long-term growth. But Peterson's critique goes beyond numbers. He frames Trudeau's economic policies as ethically questionable, asserting that they disproportionately impact those who can least afford it. For instance, rising inflation erodes the purchasing power of lower-income families, while the government's financial missteps leave fewer resources to address critical issues like healthcare, housing, and job creation. Peterson also connects these economic problems to a lack of accountability within Trudeau's administration. He suggests that the government's focus on symbolic gestures, like subsidies for green initiatives that fail to deliver meaningful results, distracts from its responsibility to ensure economic stability for all Canadians. The consequences, Peterson warns, extend beyond immediate financial hardship. Poor economic governance undermines public trust, erodes social cohesion, and leaves Canada ill-prepared to face future challenges. For Peterson, Trudeau's economic record is more than just a political liability. It's a sign of leadership that prioritizes optics over outcomes, leaving ordinary Canadians to bear the burden. Immigration controversy? Another major theme in Jordan Peterson's critique is Justin Trudeau's handling of immigration. Peterson doesn't mince words, calling Trudeau's policies a disaster that has demolished Canada's once effective immigration system. Peterson argues that Trudeau's open borders approach has created a crisis, overwhelming communities and straining public resources. While Canada has long been celebrated for its welcoming stance toward immigrants, Peterson believes Trudeau's policies have pushed the system to its breaking point. The result? Rising tensions in cities and towns grappling with sudden population increases alongside inadequate infrastructure and services to support newcomers. Recently, Trudeau announced a reversal in immigration policy, pledging to reduce the number of new permanent residents and limit temporary foreign worker programs. But Peterson sees this as too little, too late. He accuses Trudeau of backtracking only because public outcry and mounting evidence have made the crisis impossible to ignore. What frustrates Peterson most is Trudeau's tendency to deflect blame. In a recent statement, Trudeau suggested that corporations and post-secondary institutions were exploiting the immigration system for their own gain. However, Peterson argues that these explanations overlook the root cause: the government's failure to establish clear policies and enforce existing rules. For Peterson, the immigration debacle is emblematic of a broader pattern in Trudeau's leadership, reacting to crises rather than preventing them. Instead of owning up to the consequences of his policies, Peterson contends Trudeau blames others while offering superficial solutions that fail to address the underlying problems. Immigration, Peterson says, should be a point of national pride and unity. But under Trudeau's leadership, it has become a source of division and dysfunction, with both new Canadians and long-time residents feeling the strain. Free speech, civil liberties, and polarization. And the critique doesn't stop at economic and immigration policies. He also takes aim at the Prime Minister's record on free speech and civil liberties. Peterson has been an outspoken advocate for open dialogue and the right to dissent, and he accuses Trudeau of undermining these principles in favor of authoritarian control. One of the most controversial moments of Trudeau's tenure, according to Peterson, was his invocation of the Emergencies Act during the Freedom Convoy protests. While Trudeau defended the move as necessary to restore order, Peterson and many others saw it as an overreach of government power. The use of the Emergencies Act, Peterson argues, set a dangerous precedent by suppressing dissent and granting the government sweeping authority to freeze bank accounts and disrupt the lives of ordinary Canadians. Peterson goes further, accusing Trudeau of fostering an environment where dissenting opinions are vilified rather than debated. By framing political disagreements as battles between good versus evil, Peterson contends, Trudeau has polarized Canadian society. This rhetoric, he says, alienates large segments of the population, deepens divisions, and erodes trust in public institutions. For Peterson, free speech is a cornerstone of a healthy democracy, and he sees Trudeau's actions as a direct threat to this fundamental right. He points to the government's increasing regulation of online platforms and proposed legislation that critics say could stifle independent voices. Peterson warns that such measures risk turning Canada into a society where only government-approved narratives are allowed to thrive. Ultimately, Peterson's critique highlights what he views as a troubling trend in Trudeau's leadership, a willingness to prioritize control over dialogue and unity. For Canadians, this raises important questions about the balance between security and freedom, and whether their government is striking that balance fairly. Broader implications and a call for accountability? Peterson's criticism of Justin Trudeau is more than a list of grievances. It's a broader indictment of modern political leadership. According to Peterson, Trudeau represents a global trend where leaders prioritize virtue signaling and public relations over genuine governance. For Peterson, this approach leaves citizens grappling with the consequences of poorly thought-out policies and eroded trust in institutions. But Peterson's critique isn't just about pointing fingers, it's a call to action. He urges Canadians to hold their leaders accountable, demanding transparency, competence, and a focus on practical solutions. Whether it's economic policy, immigration reform, or protecting civil liberties, Peterson believes Canadians deserve a government that prioritizes their well-being over its global image. As public dissatisfaction with Trudeau's leadership grows, Peterson's fiery rhetoric serves as a reminder of the stakes. For Canada to thrive, Peterson argues, it needs principled leaders willing to tackle tough issues head-on, not those content with optics and empty promises. Do you agree with Peterson's assessment, or do you see it differently? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on Canada's most pressing issues. Your voice matters. Let's keep the conversation going.